Hello, everyone. This is George, the CISO for Trustero, and today we have Ahsan, our distinguished guest. We're going to talk about AI in security as usual. So, Ahsan, why don't you say a few words about yourself, what you're doing?
Thank you, George, for inviting me. My name is Ahsan Mir. I am founder of Rapticore. Prior to Rapticore, I've been in the industry, cybersecurity, for about 18 or so years. I've been around.
Lots of
CISO,
scars.
yes, literally got scars. These days, we are focusing on we are going through a AI revolution. Everything needs to move towards AI or use AI in some way to make things more optimal, and we are in that journey as well. And it's a learning journey because the AI capabilities are changing almost on monthly basis. What we had, these revisions are happening so quickly that it's astonishing the pace we are moving at. It presents opportunities and challenges at the same time. This is a very, very interesting space too.
Yeah, that is actually something we were discussing with a friend of mine the other day. Constantly new models are coming out. Like every month, we have a better model coming out. But more importantly, the utilization of the AI is becoming crazy. So there are a lot of new things that are coming in, new use cases. OpenAI introduced the multi-agent approach. Then Google came up with theirs. There are a lot of uses of AI, and something that happened recently was actually attackers being able to trick Tropic to perform essentially reconnaissance of a multiple company. So that's a false multiplier
Yes,
of what happened.
absolutely.
And this is, I think, very close to what Rapticore does. So why don't you tell us a little bit of how you use it for good reasons, I hope?
One of the things we have been trying to do is this idea around vibe security coming from vibe coding is just in time security that actually acts like a human would do, an expert human would behave. So we have been working on this external attack surface monitoring and red teaming platform that creates a mesh of your environment. Mesh as in how different assets are connected with each other and overlays vulnerability information, MITRE information, tactics and techniques, and then it we use AI to reason through that just like a human. An example would be that you find SSH keys, or their SSH is open on your in your environment, which shouldn't be, but it is. And there, some of them belong to prod, some belong to stage, and you realize they are using the same SSH key. Now you can connect those dots and target a development environment, someone in development, and get access to that key. So you can, instead of going after the production, you can actually jump that part and attack a less protective environment and gain that access and then move to production without anyone knowing what has happened. So as you start doing those things where you
And
chain
you
at a
correlate.
yes, correlate at a machine level, it becomes very powerful because that was always someone, a human can look at this and say, oh, I can make the correlation. And if machine is able to do that correlation at machine speed, that is very powerful and frightening.
So we have a similar issue with the GRC. I mean, you look at certain amount of data, but at some point it becomes so much that it's unmanageable. And having those correlations, like what you do, for example, for the configuration and for the vulnerabilities and all those kind of things, we do the same thing on the compliance side. So they're this common team where we know how to approach the problem, like intellectually we do. It's just the amount of data that we need to process that becomes a challenge, and that's where AI comes in.
Oh, absolutely. You are absolutely right. The I will give this example, and we were having this conversation around breach reporting, and you have
Mm,
signed different contracts,
yes.
different customers, and sometimes during contract signing you have agreed to different reporting breach reporting requirements, and now you're over a period of time you forget how quickly are you going to report to your
And what kind of data you want to share.
yes, what kind of data, what are your upstream obligations, and what are your downstream obligations? Just to actually figure that out, going through a plethora of your contract document, it is a massive task.
Yeah.
Uh,
And also, there are cases when you're not even aware. So, legal promise something that you don't even know that they promised in
exactly.
the contract, and that becomes a challenge. And again, that's also where systems like ours can help, because you can expose them to other stakeholders within the environment and basically say, hey, legal, before you promise anything, just ask this thing, because it already is contextualized with my information, whether that's compliance information, whether it's a vulnerability information, whatever it is. Just ask the question and see what it comes out and if it works before
Oh,
you actually put it on
I,
paper.
I see a great benefit here where you have a system like Trustero, and it's constantly looking at the contractual obligations during incident response and figuring out, instead of a human figuring out from a legal perspective, does need to be informed right now if we have a breach, and a system figuring it out for you and taking all that hard work away. It's amazing capability. I think for large organization with a lot of contracts, that is such a powerful capability.
And the good news is that there are AI systems that are coming online that are specifically around contract management. So they can do those kind of things. For example, they can discern what is going to be the standard template for certain obligations within a security. So that's what is offered for as a starting point. And when legal modifies it, then the system say, oh, but you're outside of the norms on this thing and this. You have to notify those people and you have to check. So the good news is that help is coming on the legal side as well using AI.
I think there are phenomenal capabilities that are being built, and new companies are coming up every day, pretty much every day, solving these problems. But I think GRC is especially very interesting because there's a lot of documentation that exists, and we are not always aware of how to implement and or what is being implemented, and we are in violation of our own policies
Yeah.
oftentimes.
So on your side, you're coming up with some new things, and actually, thank you so much for letting me test drive some of it. I was really impressed by the capability that you have for. It's almost like a pen testing, not really, but pretty close to a pen testing. I really liked it because it was very detailed. Frankly, I cannot distinguish between an actual human creating the report. Maybe the human will discover more, maybe less, I don't know. But the report was very well structured. It was as if a consultant did a pen test for me.
We actually designed the report in such a way, and the report is not a template, but it is driven entirely by AI. So
Oh,
AI writes the report. We don't write the report. AI is actually writing that report and enriching it in different ways. Like it's looking at, I have found these issues. Did I find mitigations? So you would see that part as well. I found these issues here that might be a problem, but then I also see that you have a CDN or Cloudflare that's protecting that. So I'm going to make the severity a little less because I found that. So it does all those things automatically. So there is a human reviewer that actually eventually, if you want a full pen test,
yeah.
a human reviewer will come in and say, all right, these are some additional things that we have found out. But what it we were trying to mimic as closely a expert human or a red team or a pen tester as possible, both from a
S-
reporting perspective and capability perspective.
So one thing that I was thinking, and going back to the previous conversation about the vastness of data, so one thing that could be super helpful is being able to provide recommendations. And I saw them sprinkled here and there, and that's why I want to ask you of how do you approach the recommendations, especially given the fact that you're already contextualized with the data, the vulnerabilities that you have in the system, the configuration files, you know what the system is. So I guess the recommendations in terms of how to close the gaps are much better, much higher quality, right?
Yes, they are much higher quality. So when you are enriching information from internal and external system and are aware of what's already there, you can make fine tweaks that can render attack. Sometimes people have Cloudflare and they have not turned on bot protection. It
Hmm.
happens all the time. It's
Yeah.
like having a door with a lock but not turning the key. It's as simple as that. Or sometimes those recommendations you already have the capability in place and you just turn it on and now you're more and better secure. So you are absolutely right, but it also is important that we don't take securities as a silo approach but layered approach. It
Yeah.
all Whenever we were thinking about security or reading up on security, it was always defense in depth. Take a layered approach. But what we end up finding ourselves is having these silos where we have capabilities, they don't talk to each other. And your trust here is all about GRC. Risk exists between silos. When you have silos, it falls through those silos. So having a connected system that can look at your AppSec, your infrastructure, your outside, your inside, your identities, and connects it in a way that it can provide a better and high fidelity answer is the future in my mind. I might be wrong, but I think we should get to that place where we have full inside and out visibility of a connected platform.
So that's an interesting point that you're bringing up because let's say in the security organization, you have different functions, different verticals within the security organization, and just the most common hierarchical management structure, everything comes together to, let's say, several directors, and then from the directors to the CISO. And the thing is that the expectation is that the higher you go in the hierarchy, the more holistic view the person has within the environment, which is usually the case. The problem there is that you can either be wide or deep. It's really hard to be both. So, for example, if you're talking to a SOC engineer, they're going to be very deep. They're going to know everything about nothing. Whereas when you talk to the CISO has an overarching view, they see the big picture, but they need to be educated on individual details. You cannot expect them to have the individual details. And if something happens, then that's where the experience comes in. If something happens, then the CISO knows where to start poking and to get the details. But it's interesting how you mentioned that the AI tools, by the virtue that they're contextualized with a lot of information, they can be that glue between the different functions. So on one hand, you have the big picture, so you have a view of everything, but at the same time, it's also a deep view of everything. So it's almost, are you familiar with one CISO?
One CISO? I'm not.
Yeah,
Tell me
One
more.
CISO is an interesting startup. What they did is they collected just practical information from a whole bunch of CISOs and they contextualized AI with it. And it almost became like a chief of staff or an assistant for the CISO, which is super cool because, hey, I need to prepare this presentation for the audit committee. This thing will give you all the necessary templates and you kind of adjust it and boom, you have the presentation. I need to prepare a report for our chief legal officer about whatever risk. Okay, this thing will give you the templates and the best practices and all those kind of things. So I'm almost connecting. You should check it out once.
I will check it out. It
Yeah,
sounds
it's pretty
interesting.
cool. But it's almost if we can connect a system like that with the systems that we have, like Rapticore, Trustero, and similar, because yes, the one issue gives you the best practices, how to deliver information, how to think about this thing, how to structure your environment, those kind of things. But the details are coming from systems like ours. So marrying those two would be a pretty powerful thing.
I think you're absolutely right. What you're describing is combining all these sort of, I'm thinking of these expert and delivery capabilities into a more holistic reporting function.
Yeah.
So I see the synergies there, how all of these can come together and provide different capabilities that eventually work together to provide for reporting and measurement perspective. I think that sounds really exciting capability.
Yeah, yeah. So have an assistant that you can ask all the questions and the assistant will find the data and structure it the way you want it.
Remember when we were, and you have done this as well, we would ask everyone and there would be spreadsheets every week
Yes.
to
And it
fill.
takes a month.
For each board meeting there would be like, all right, we need to collect metrics from here, metrics are here, and then synthesize them and all that, and it was so painful and so broken. I hope those things will be fixed with a lot of that because
I
we,
think we're heading there. I
yeah.
think we're heading there. But then becomes another question. Let's say your tool. Okay. So let's take, for example, your tool. I can see how Rapticore can be used in the SOC environment to help a lot in the SOC environment. And there, this area within all over the organization, but let's focus on security. There are those areas within the security organization where there is this just grinding work that needs to happen. SOC is one of those areas.
Yeah.
Like day in and out, you're dealing with signals, you're trying to figure out which one are false positives, weed them out. You're constantly trying different scenarios to see what comes out. And it is a grinding work. You cannot get somebody from the street because you need someone who is actually an expert who knows what they're doing. And the other thing is that they need to have the background of your organization. You cannot just get somebody and without any training you put them in your SOC and they be effective. So that is an example of an area that it requires a highly qualified individual to do a grinding work. And I think those are going to be the areas where those are going to be the first candidates for replacement with AI. And we already see some tools like yours, for example, where they're focusing the SOC. On our side, an example of a grinding work is control testing. Again, yeah, not really intellectually stimulating over there, but it has to be done. Another area is answering these pesky questionnaires.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody hates it, but everybody does it. Now, there is a question mark whether we need to do those kind of things, but we've been through those discussions in the last 10, 15 years, and we are still answering questionnaires. So there's those areas within the security. Oh, reviewing architectural diagrams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is another one. So those are kind of areas where you have highly qualified individuals doing mundane work. Let's assume that, and it looks that way. There are a lot of efforts, a lot of startups that are happening in this space. Let's assume that this happens, and we can relieve the individuals from doing that. They're going to be more of a supervisory role rather than doing role. How do you think that's going to change the business of security?
I will. We had this conversation as we are moving into AI. The economy is changing, and I will come back to your previous question. We are moving away from a doer economy where people do something. They
Mhm.
have playbooks and all that, and they work through those playbooks. And
Workflows,
oh yes,
managing workflows.
yes, workflows. That is going away. The with AI, we are moving into this innovator, creator, decision maker economy, not a doer economy. So all the things that you used to do intellectually or using some sort of reasoning is over a period of time going to go away. Security industry, I would say, is going to be impacted, but we already were sitting on massive skill shortage, massive amount of people that were not there, but there were positions that were there. We didn't have enough people, and security would become very expensive very quickly for both reasons: skill shortage, not enough people, skilled people, all those reasons. Now with AI, where you have these playbooks and we can leverage AI to do the work, it will become, I would say, more cost effective to get good security. And I see that as a net value add for the whole ecosystem, because we cannot have one organization secure and not the other one, because we are all connected as part of supply chain. So as we are able to bring these AI system, I feel that we'll get more and more secure, and then the whole ecosystem gets more secure, and that's a win for all of us.
I think for companies that do not deploy AI in security, very soon is going to be a tough time.
Oh, absolutely.
First of all, because you're to your point, like the talent is expensive, let's be honest. But the other thing is that the adversaries started deploying AI.
Oh, yes.
And I'm having a problem keeping up with our developers, our internal folks that are friends. Imagine you're not going to be able to keep up with the adversaries if they start deploying the AI. Just the magnitude of the speed magnitude that they can use to be able to find doors to get in, it's going to be crazy.
I posted this thing earlier this morning, that we should perhaps restrict high performing coding LLMs as strategic, because if we don't, the effect they might produce, ransomware, criminal
Yeah,
activities, all those state sponsored activities, is going to be so massive that we might not be there yet to use AI to protect systems, but it's asymmetric at the moment. The adversaries are using AI to create systems that can compromise at scale, reason at
right.
scale. And if
But
we are
always been
not,
like that. They've
yes,
always been a cat and a mouse game.
you're absolutely right. But previously it was even if you collected large volume of data, someone had to go through that data to say, I'm
Yeah.
going to do the targeting here. This is interesting. And or would they would use some sort of decision making. Now you can use AI to say, just go through all of this and figure out who is the most vulnerable to attack, and just attack it. And even with some of these advancements that you AI is able to create 0 days,
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
0 days in new systems. So it's not that they are using what's already there, but it can independently research. And if you have enough money, you can set it on something, say, find me a vulnerability in this most commonly used component, and it will go in, and maybe within a month it will find something, hypothetically. So the landscape is changing.
And you can automate the exploitation. That's the
Yes,
scary part.
absolutely. You can automate the full chain, from identification of vulnerabilities all
Mhm.
the way to exploitation, and all that. You can actually automate the whole thing.
So, how should people think about that? Because let's be honest, not actually, probably a lot of companies do not have the necessary investment in security to start experimenting with AI. At the same time, this thing is coming. So, how should our brethren think about that?
I think they should focus. There is this tendency to, we can do everything. Don't focus on what makes you money, what is your core business. Focus on that. Use AI to do that. Do not invest in, because we can do this with AI, let's do our own security. It's wasteful, and you're not leveraging. So what I'm trying to say is, focus on what is your core business. There are companies who are doing security. Allow them to help you, and the cost point will come down over a period of time, because we are using AI. You can deliver things more quickly. But the new competitors that are new companies that are coming up, I have a feeling that they can provide better, high quality solution at a much lower price point, and allow solutions that are adoptable and manageable for smaller companies with smaller budgets. Maybe I'm not answering their question. There will be investment needed. If you don't
Mhm.
invest, you will find yourself compromised very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So, how should we think about the tools? You started a little bit because there are these incumbents that are trying to do AI, and there are new companies that are AI born. Just that sounds so much the conversations around cloud 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But how should I think about, let's say I want to automate some of, again, going back to SOC. Should I go with an incumbent that does AI, or should I start looking at some startup that, yeah, I don't know exactly what it is there, but they're cutting edge in terms of the technology? Like, how should I think about evaluating the tools and the services that I employ in security?
I have a very good that you ask. I have a thesis on this. Focus on outcomes instead of outputs.
Hmm?
That produce outcomes, that gets something done, that secure you, that reduce the risk, that take automated action, that reduces the work. That is outcome. Output is alerts. You need
Yeah,
to look at thousands of these alerts. You have to do something. Most traditional security tools have been producing outputs. That's why we were drowning in
in
so
alerts. Yeah.
much of the noise that comes our way as security professionals. Focus on tools, whether they are using AI or whatever you're using. Outputs. What are the outcomes you're coming out of that tool? If you think of a clear outcome that you can achieve from a tool, that's a win.
That's actually a good point and goes back to something else you said earlier about the workflows. Because vast majority of the tools that we are using today, their goal is to optimize the workflow, to make it easier for us to do the work.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's the traditional management role. You're given resources, you have a workflow, and you produce some kind of an output. That's
Yeah.
and you're trying to optimize that workflow. That's the thing, and that's what brought up a lot of tools to really optimize the workflow.
Yeah.
Now, the argument here is that, especially when we are talking about multi agent systems, Don't worry about the workflow. And in fact, that's actually interesting because just around the COVID time, there were a lot of conversations about self optimizing teams. In other words, don't be so much focused on what is the workflow and how do you manage that workflow and all those kind of things. Let Give the team a clear objective, what the output should be, and let the team self-organize. That happened around COVID time, and I guess because of COVID, things went sideways. When I was at Atlassian, we were experimenting quite a bit of that, and it was very interesting. We took some things to extreme, but it's almost now with the multi-agent systems, that is what it is. So don't worry about the workflow. Don't try to find a tool to manage your workflow. Find a tool that can give you the output that you're looking for, and let the tool self-organize itself. Especially now with the multi-agent, when you have subject matter experts agents and they can organize themselves to depending on the question that you're asking, then don't worry about the workflow. Just
Oh, you are absolutely right. And a lot of the tools that we have in place are workflow management tool. And because all that work is being automated, there is a we won't need those workflow management tools. So that's it. It's coming. Anything that we lot of the tooling that we have in place was because we had only certain amount of human capacity.
mhm.
And
And we are trying to optimize it.
we are trying to optimize that capacity based on priority and all of that.
Yeah.
That human capacity is now going away and being replaced with AI and LLM systems. So we don't need as much of the workflow management tools that we previously had. So this paradigm is going to shift around how, what. So if we don't need that, then the whole workforce, the whole, how do we do work, how we think about work is going to change. And you are absolutely right. And I did some work on specifically what you're saying is what is a highly optimized team, and there are Navy SEALs and there is an operating
Right.
theater, operation theaters and ER. You take the example of they are all outcome focused. You
Yeah.
don't
And
tell
they're
them what
self-optimizing in terms of workflow.
self-optimizing,
Yep.
self-organizing with highly skilled people who have a mission and they deliver on that mission. How they deliver on that mission is up to them. You just
Yep.
give them the mission and give them the skills, and entirely it's up to them to deliver on that mission.
But that would require a high degree of trust in the team. Because,
I
yes, let's say that you focus on the outcome, you define what are the constraints, what is the outcome that you're looking for, but you have to trust the team that it's going to be optimal to get to that output. And the output is the one that is the true output.
I think we will get there, or we'll have to. Our force will be, our hand will be forced to get there because the adversaries are getting there. If we
Mm.
don't trust the system to work quickly with proper guardrails and all that, adversaries are going to use that to compromise systems or take advantage of systems or whatever at speed. So we need systems that are operating at the same efficiency, at the same speed.
So it's interesting. Last time when I spoke with Caleb, we were talking about benchmarking of different models. And there are a lot of efforts around like the trustworthiness of the model, the true of the model, all of those things. So there are a lot of benchmarks around the models themselves. But I haven't seen much benchmarking around the solutions that are built on top of the model. Like, for lack of a better term, how can I trust that Rapticore or Trustero is giving me the right thing? Because yes, I may trust the underlying model because they're benchmarks for the model or models, multiple models, because we're talking about multi-agent. But how do I trust the system that is built on top of the model?
The approach we have taken at Rapticore is not use AI indiscriminately. We are combining deterministic system with AI, which is basically non-deterministic, and have guardrails on top of it. So we are still deterministic system last gen are still very effective if you have ML classifiers and all of that. They
Yep.
work at very high speed. LLMs don't work at that speed. So
Yeah.
so you can combine both those systems, have deterministic output around certain things, and then apply the LLM on top of it to produce high quality, more trustworthy work and at speed. If you just allow LLM to do the work, then it's going to produce non-deterministic answers. The answer might be, hey, there's 10 ways to make pasta,
Yeah,
and it
it
will get you
depends.
the pasta.
It depends.
Yes, it will get you the pasta, but what kind of pasta it gets you is it might be different. It might not be exactly the pasta you're looking for, or the pasta it might not be bolognese, or it might not be something else, or
Yeah.
it will give you some pasta to eat. And it's all right, you asked for pasta, here's the pasta, but I don't like bolognese. So
Actually, that's a key because, yeah, there is this push for using AI and LLMs lately. Excuse me. However, that may not be the best tool for purpose. For example, on our side, what we discovered, and I think that's not a chattering thing, LLM is not very good at math.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So, for example, if we have two spreadsheets and we say enumerate through those spreadsheets and match them against the lines on the other spreadsheet, it is not doing a good work. Not at all. However, if you tell it, hey, generate a Python script to enumerate through this spreadsheet and then match it against the other spreadsheet and give me the result, it's excellent. It creates the Python script, it runs it, it gives the result, and then I can pipe it back into the LLM and do whatever analysis I need to do. Let's not jump on the bandwagon and do LLM for everything.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah.
So I think where agents are powerful because agents have access to not just the LLM, but the tools underneath.
Yes.
Traditional tools, whether they are regex or whether they are Python interpreters or environments where you can actually have pandas that are running and write custom rules or custom code to do everything on the fly, and an LLM is driving all that. That is very powerful capability. Instead of giving a prompt to LLM, say, hey, do this math equation,
Right.
it's not their core capability. Their core capability is around reason, connecting, using tools in an automated fashion. And we should be thinking about how we are going to use those multi-agent systems. And that's where the power of LLM comes in, is the multi-agent system, either with
Yeah.
an orchestrator, with another agent that does something else, another agent that does the math, but it does math by writing code. So all those are very powerful capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, cognizant of time,
Yes.
what do you see in the future? Like a year from now, are we going to be sitting on the beach drinking margarita or we're going to be fighting Terminator?
I think a bit of both. There's a lot of hope, but I also feel that if you look at what is happening in Ukraine and elsewhere, you have to realize how AI and robotics is changing the world,
Yeah.
both from conflict perspective, and I'm just, now it's more of a philosophical conversation. It's going to change things. It's already changing things on battlefield. We see that, and it is becoming more brutal, and it will get more brutal. The same thing would, and what would also happen is we will use AI to discover new drugs. We will discover therapies. It will help, and we will grow through it. I think it's the same as when we were starting on the internet. That
Mm-hmm.
changed the world, and we didn't know, and it started this whole postmodern world that has its benefits, and it has brought us so much riches and so much psychological problems as well. I think the AI will bring us something similar, but it will be all exciting, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Essen. This was a good conversation. I think we should do it again. Good
Absolutely.
luck
I
with
love
the
having,
with Rapticore. It's an
yes.
awesome tool. Yeah, we should do it
And
again.
yes, absolutely. I love having conversation, and it's always good to talk to you.
Thank you.